I have a limited vocabulary, but what is okwekaza in English?
To dry yourself.
NBS Frontline. Parliament is currently scrutinizing the proposed Protection of Sovereignty Bill 2026, a piece of the legislation that has sparked intense national debate over its potential impact on civil liberties, foreign funding and governance.
Funds for the people of Uganda being used to undermine the democracy of Uganda. So I think that is the more urgent issue to address.
It is about the preservation of the Mr. Museveni regime and dynasty.
Tabled earlier this month by the Ministry of Internal Affairs, the bill seeks to regulate foreign influence in Uganda's political, social, and economic affairs. It is now before the Committee on Defense and Internal Affairs for detailed examination. The government says the proposed law is intended to safeguard Uganda's sovereignty by tightening oversight on foreign actors operating within the country. Among its key provisions is a requirement for individuals and organizations deemed to be acting on behalf of foreign interests to register as foreign agents.
Does not protect Uganda's sovereignty.
The law should not restrict the amount of funds to be received.
The minister is NRM. How does PFF is going to get money?
Despite growing backlash, government officials and members of the ruling National Resistance Movement, NRM, insist the bill is necessary to protect the country from external interference and preserve national interests.
The only way the law can be strengthened is by plugging the gaps that they may have observed. But for us as a people, we rely on our members of parliament.
As debate continues, the proposed law remains one of the most closely watched legislative developments in Uganda. But is the country walking a delicate legal path? This is The Frontline. NBS Frontline.
Yes, it's The Frontline. A very good evening. My name is Simon Kagwa Njala. Tonight, we weigh in on the raging storm around the Protection of Sovereignty Bill 2026. Well, it's been greeted with mixed reactions. We'll be looking at the reservations, the determination, the spirit, and everything that surrounds it. It's here. I've had this copy, I've read it online, now I have it physically. Quite a lot of interesting bits. The bill, in its sense, seeks to operationalize, or rather, the object is to enact a law that seeks to provide for the protection of the sovereignty of the people of Uganda, to designate the department responsible and regulation of agents of foreigners. Remember, today one is deemed a foreigner if you have lived out of the country for 3 months. Well, we'll be delving deeper into the nitty-gritty of the bill and its implications across the IO. Joining me tonight is Honorable Semuju Ibrahim Nganda, Member of Parliament, Kira Municipality, and Secretary General of the PFF, together with Mr. Charles Ouma, Deputy Solicitor General, Honorable Chris Bariomusi, Minister of Information and National Guidance, and the outgoing Lord Mayor and President of the PFF, Honorable Erias Lukwago, will also be joined by a member of civil society, Mr. Job Keija, to share their perspective. Good to have you all, and a very good evening.
Thank you.
Honorable Semuju, I know you have a knack for reading deep into this bill, rather into matters of national interest. How much have you grasped about this bill, and what's your take on what it presents?
I think if you want to understand legislation bills, you don't stop at the content. The intention is very important. Because even when a bill doesn't say something, it becomes just a framework to deal with a particular issue. I remember when the Public Order Management Now Act came, the movers of the bill, that time I think one of the main promoters was Kale Kayihura, was that we want to regulate public meetings, just regulation. But they started using the law to say, now we must be the one to allow a rally to take place or not. So the content of the bill, what is written in the bill, sometimes may not go as far as revealing the intention of those who are behind the bill, because the content will never cover the full intention. It's just a framework. It's just a shield. But this bill deals with the movement of money, mainly.
Foreign funding.
Yes. We did a law on money laundering. We did a number of legislation regarding movement of money, financing of terrorism, and so on and so forth. So there was no need to do another law. But I think this bill comes to deal with politics. Mr. Museveni, because he controls the means of violence, his regime survives on money and violence. In the last election, I have spoken to some NRM friends. They tell me because he keeps asking these fellows who have no money, how come they are sustaining a campaign? How come they are doing this and this? And then his handlers will tell him, no, they are still receiving money from outside. I remember each time we had either protests in Kampala, Museveni and his people, and so on and so forth. So this bill seeks to achieve the same things, that how do I stop people who are opposed to my administration from accessing money? How do I stop? Because they think the opposition is sponsored by the outside. But also, you have a growing number of Ugandans. You go to Europe, you go to the Middle East, you go to Asia, who are interested in what takes place in Uganda. I have gone, I was in South Sudan. I was surprised that in the market in South Sudan, you had Ugandans who were raising money monthly and they send back to their political parties. It was, it is. And it's not that they don't know. So they will want to stop everybody. And that's why Ugandans are also, because even when you look at I think now remittances by Ugandans who are outside is at 1.7, and the money from tourism is at about 1.6 trillion. So the money they send, you will never know whether it comes to help their political parties. So you now want people who are sending money to be registered, and those who are receiving. So that's why the law now must establish a mechanism of, if you're a bank and you want
in essence, do you want to suggest that the state is so paranoid at this time?
No, because you see, Museveni, and I don't even want to accuse the state, he must be the source of money for everything. You are the one who must give MPs, give the clergy, give traditional leaders, give sex workers in Mbale, give everybody. So in Uganda, there must not be any other person giving money to anyone. But you also hear sometimes wrongly that these people have received money from here and there. There are Ugandans from outside, they raise money and send it to... So you must stop them. So that's why you want to classify Ugandans now as foreigners, and you want to criminalize the movement of money in this century.
Mr. Charles Ouma, you're part of the drafting in this. Share with us an overview on what this law or this bill in its current form means to the country, and what it seeks to cure.
Thank you, moderator. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, viewers. I'll give some historical context to matters to do with the bill before us. And I'm going to flash to the United States of America. In 1796, George Washington, the then president of the United States of America, just before he left power, made a clarion call to the American people to be wary of foreign interests in the affairs of the United States of America. He actually referred to them as tools and dupes and said, beware. They may be interested in the affairs of the United States of America for wrong reasons. In 1852, the Congress of the United States of America, that is jointly, House of Representatives and the Senate, made a joint resolution and said that we should, as an American people, be wary of the insidious wiles of foreign interference and foreign elements. What that triggered later on down the line, after about 1933 or so, was the enactment of the Foreign Agents Registration Act, which has been amended over time. This, I draw your attention, is really a geopolitical and policy question. In 1965, the Dayan of Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew, gave an anecdote while being interviewed by the some British and American journalists of an experience he had. And he narrated the story of how some foreign forces within America tried to bribe a special branch officer of the Singapore government to facilitate and avail information about the Singapore government. And this gentleman refused to take that bribe. He then reported that to his chief, who in turn reported to Lee Kuan Yew. The option of the government of Singapore at the time was whether to prosecute him or not.
Fast forward here.
Yes. But he did not. A promise was given to the Singapore government. Yeah. I'm going to give you a background. $100 million offered to the Singapore government and $10 million to Lee Kuan Yew to let it lie low. What am I trying to say here is that this is a geopolitical issue. It's a very sensitive matter. It is not akin only the Republic of Uganda. It is all over the world. There's a plethora of nations that have come up with similar laws. So this particular law is basically to take care of the interests of Uganda, the sovereignty of Uganda, and Uganda's interests going forward as a nation.
Have you tried to digest or take in the views from Uganda Law Society, from the bankers, from activists, from the opposition? There are reservations about this particular bill.
Yes, we have. Some of them have been gracious enough to formally communicate their position. And we take cognizance that matters legislation will never ordinarily generate unanimity. And that means we welcome all the views that come from different actors and stakeholders. These views are recognized, they are appreciated. Actually, some of the recommendations may enhance the final enactment of the law if Parliament eventually considers it. A number of them have declared they will actually participate in the public discussion before Parliament on this matter and share the same views. So we recognize there are various views about matter. It's also an emotive issue, but one thing I would like to appreciate is society has been given an opportunity to discussed.
In a matter of weeks. It's been 2 weeks.
Well,
What explains the haste?
I do not control speed of legislation processes, but the question maybe we should ask is, why not? Is there any particular time at which legislation should be introduced in Parliament? Is there a particular speed at which legislation should be passed? I don't know. I'll leave that to the politicians.
Whose sovereignty are you protecting?
You and me.
When the players, the people who would be the beneficiaries of this, are opposed.
Well, that is why I think we have a legislature, a parliament. Parliament is constituted by representatives of the citizenry. We allow the citizenry through their representatives to debate these matters. Eventually, if it's rejected, so be it. If it's welcomed, we'll take it with grace too. Thank you.
Thank you. Lord Mayor, from a legal and political perspective, what does this law, this bill, mean to the country?
I'll start with the legal perspective. And I'll tell you, without any fear of contradiction, and with all due respect to my brother here, Charles Ouma, and those who authored it, it's the most ridiculous, hopeless, useless, and bogus piece of legislation.
That's harsh.
I'm telling you. And I will justify my statement. Of course, we have had a number of, or a litany of useless legislations. But this one goes to the root of the Constitution, the cornerstone of the constitutional order. That is the sovereignty of the people. And that's where it is purportedly anchored, on Article 1 of the Constitution. But they are seeking to vulgarize it.
Yeah, but it's
they are distorting it.
It's baptized protection of sovereignty.
Go to Part 2, protection of Part 2 in the preamble of the memorandum, and read what it says. And I will explain it to you as an expert. Part 2.
This part provides for protection of the sovereignty of Uganda by prohibiting the involvement of a person in any activity that promotes the interests of a foreigner against the interests of Uganda. Clause 5. Further, the part prohibits any person from performing the functions and services for which government is responsible, specified in the 6th schedule of the Constitution, unless with the approval of cabinet.
You see, you posed a very fundamental question. Whose sovereignty are you protecting? Part 2, they are talking about sovereignty of Uganda, not sovereignty of the people. And this is important. It's critical. Sovereignty of the country. Yet the foundation of the Constitution is sovereignty of the people. Yes, in objects clause somewhere they're talking about sovereignty, but it's vulgarized.
Maybe this is a drafting error.
No. They deliberately made it. They said protection of the sovereignty of Uganda or the interests of Uganda, by the way, which are not defined, as against foreign interests. Even foreign interests are not defined. But the bottom line here is they are talking of protecting the sovereignty of Uganda, which is a negation of Article 1. Sovereignty of this country resides in the people. You cannot talk of sovereignty of Uganda. And when you are talking about sovereignty of Uganda, of the people, you look at all the dynamics across board, not only foreign interests, even domestic dynamics. Day in, day out, the sovereignty of the people is being subverted and abused by local forces here, the Museveni regime here. So you cannot talk about protection of the sovereignty of the people when actually you are having the lenses focusing on foreign interests alone. That's a vulgarization and a distortion of Article 1 of the Constitution. That's where I wanted to start from. But I want to join issue with the Honorable Semuju about the spirit of this law. You see, when you look at the spirit, when you want to understand the spirit of a legislation, you don't necessarily look at the clauses per se. Of course, it's one of the areas that will guide you, but you look at the environment surrounding that bill. He posed the question. You asked, why the haste? And also, you look at all the issues, all the processes surrounding this bill. It tells volumes that it's all about stifling all the sources of funding for voices that are critical to the regime. It's not only political opposition. All the forces, all the voices critical of the regime, that is the intention, is to stifle them.
Yeah, but when
to
you
starve them of funding. Yes.
When you read, somewhere it says,
yes,
the bill seeks to safeguard Uganda's autonomy and stability. I thought that's critical.
You see, go back to Article 1. Because the legislation must be anchored on particular provisions of the Constitution. When you talk about protection of Uganda's stability, you have a number of legislations to handle that, to cater for that. They are there. And you don't need even to create a department in the Ministry of Internal Affairs, for security and stability. There is a department being created there that they are going to register agents of foreign interests. Foreign interests are not defined, by the way. And when you go again to the preamble, they purport to give that list of the activities which are injurious to the interests of Uganda, which are prohibited. And once you indulge in those ones, then you are caught within the ambit of the law.
So is the bill lost in ambiguity or spirit?
Let me add to the description I alone gave. Bogus, hopeless, useless, repressive, retrogressive, also vague. It's a vague legislation. In an attempt to disguise their mission, the spirit of the law, they ended up coming up with a legislation, a piece of legislation, which is vague, completely vague. You cannot tell what a foreign interest is. Actually, it's not defined. You have a number of, they are trying to define a foreigner, to include Ugandans residing, domiciled outside the country, to also include foreign companies, foreign corporations, multinational agencies, and whatnot. In the end, they are suggesting that actually all these entities which are international in nature are foreigners, whether in telecommunication, whether in the banking sector, whether they are in the NGO world, as long as you are based elsewhere, and under the company law, you come here and register. Because you are not, they are talking of companies incorporated in foreign jurisdiction. So if you have your company, for example, a bank, I don't want to mention many of them. Indigenous banks are very, very few. Majority are foreign. So if you come and register here, you are not incorporated here, you register here under the Companies Act, you are considered to be a foreign company. Now, whether you're representing foreign interests which are not defined, that's a different matter. But you are considered to be a foreign company. And whoever is working for that company, for that banking institution, must register with the Ministry of Internal Affairs. That department.
There's another clause, F. Any person, institution, or body that the minister may, by statutory instrument, declare to be a foreigner.
Yes, by statutory instrument, the minister is given those discretionary powers to cast the net wide. They can consider any activity, any entity, any person, anyone, and say, now you are also considered to be a foreigner.
Well, Honorable Bariomusi, you realize the bill has had a lot of opposition. Law society, the bankers, civil society, name it. wouldn't you find it prudent maybe to do more reflection, halt it for now, shelve it, and do more consultation? And besides, is there an existential threat that warrants such a law?
Yes, first of all, a bill by definition is a proposal. It's a proposed law. And what is happening is healthy because government, through the Ministry of Internal Affairs, drafted, was supported by the Solicitor General and Attorney General's chambers, drafted this law. It passed through cabinet. Also, I can say the NRM members who subscribed to the NRM party also discussed it, and then we cleared the ministers, tabled it in the parliament. It was read the first time and sent to a committee. And at that stage of the committee in the parliament, all of us as members of parliament are given copies of a bill when a bill is brought to parliament. So we are expected to do consultations as MPs because we represent Ugandans. And also the committee, while processing the bill, listens to all those who are affected or interested in the bill. And what's going on now in the committee is that they are receiving a memoranda and several interested parties are appearing before the committee to get views. So I don't know why you appear like you have sleepless nights because Ugandans are voicing their concerns about the bill. That is healthy, and that's how legislation happens, so that you get what the rest of Ugandans are saying. And of course, now the committee will process it. Yes, you may have heard voices, but have you carried out a referendum in Uganda to say majority of Ugandans don't want the bill? They are just getting views from bankers, from different categories. And then
would you treat the categories in isolation?
No. I'm saying the committee now is getting comments from different sections of society. And then they evaluate these comments, and then the committee will make a report to Parliament. The committee, for instance, can say maybe there is overwhelming rejection, and we propose we put off the bill, or they can propose amendments to the bill to accommodate the concerns being raised, or they can leave it the way it is, so it will again find itself on the floor of Parliament.
What kind of legislation is this to you, in your opinion? Is it good or bad?
Why do you ask a question whose answer you know? I am a member of cabinet, and this bill has been introduced by government, so it's a government bill. But to add to...
No, Honorable Mariumus.
Yes.
Do you find this legislation good or bad, yourself?
Oh, best. Good, it's a good bill. Why this bill? We are talking of protection of the sovereignty of Ugandans. Okay, the road mayor says Uganda versus Ugandans, those are just semantics. Uganda is not trees, it is Ugandans. Just hold on. So we are talking about protection of the sovereignty. What is sovereignty? Sovereignty is that power that we should have as Ugandans to govern ourselves, to make decisions for ourselves, to be responsible for whatever happens, and to handle self-determination as a country.
Are you indeed protecting Ugandans?
Yes.
Or taking away their sovereignty?
No, just hold on. Why are you impatient? So, Uganda, like many other countries, is a country which was colonized. If I can take you back to history, like it was, giving us the historical context. We know, in the case of Uganda, across 70 years, we're under colonial administration. Colonialists went, and then we went into self-rule, self-governance, independence. But we all know that even when these foreigners went, they went unwillingly. One leg went, another leg remained around here in Africa. And when you look at the power architecture, governance architecture in the world, especially here in Africa, you see foreigners still want to influence what happens in Uganda. So the first question is there a need to protect the sovereignty of Ugandans? My answer would be yes.
Doesn't Uganda get money from foreigners?
Just hold on. That's not the issue. So my first question is there a need to safeguard and protect the sovereignty of Ugandans as a people? My answer is yes. The other question is, are the laws which we have adequate to protect the sovereignty? My answer is no. When you read that bill, it is a section where it talks about the defects in the existing legislative framework. There are gaps which are being filled by coming up with this standalone legislation. Well, there may be misgivings about some of the provisions, and that's why I'm saying it's a proposed law which Ugandans and other interested parties can make comments to. Uganda is not the only country that has this kind of legislation. Many countries, some of which the critics admire, look at the USA, you look at the UK, look at Australia, and many others, have similar laws to protect the interests, the sovereignty of their own citizens.
Why now?
Why now?
Yes.
Well, you cannot legislate for everything at once. This constitution of ours was promulgated in 1995. And once we identify provisions which are not yet actuated through domestic legislation, we identify them and then we propose laws. And over the years, since 1995, there are many bills which have been brought to Parliament. And now we have looked at the dynamics. Increasingly, this foreign interference with the affairs of countries is also moving in an upward trajectory. We go into politics, you look at how we manage the economy, how we look at the issues of governance, you see these foreign interests coming into our affairs. So, yes, the bill could have come yesterday, it could have come next year, but it is also harmless for the bill to come now, because the reality is there are these foreign interests which are not in favor of our own interests.
Before I bring in Joe, yes, Lord.
So,
yes. You see, he's taking us to a wrong direction.
Which one?
You are saying we are operationalizing Article 1 of the Constitution.
Yes.
Once you are operationalizing it, please don't restrict it for any threats, for any interests. You get it? The threat to the sovereignty of Ugandans, not Uganda as a country, the threat to the sovereignty of Ugandans is both international and domestic. So is there any provision in that bill which addresses domestic threats to the sovereignty of Ugandans to exercise their power to determine their destiny? Is there any provision, any clause?
You are partly right. Sovereignty can be looked at in terms of the intrinsic environment, but also you can have extrinsic or foreign related sovereignty. In this case, we are addressing largely the foreign. The local or the internal sovereignty issues are addressed through other pieces of legislation.
Look at this constitution. Article 1 is specific about the sovereignty of Ugandans, not the sovereignty of Uganda as against foreign interests.
So, Lord Mayor, do you want to suggest that this bill is offensive to the Constitution?
It's unconstitutional. Actually, this is why I'm saying it is bastardizing, it is vulgarizing the provisions of Article 1.
The Constitutional Court is a few meters from here. You can go and challenge it from the Constitutional Court.
Wow.
So you're just giving an opinion. So,
yes,
in a nutshell, I think the people who are mainly criticizing, civil society and opposition.
Lawyers. Legal brains have come out to challenge this.
Yes, but this is also a legal brain. Do you know this is also a lawyer?
Yeah, but the Uganda Law Society, for instance,
are you saying the Attorney General's chambers and the Solicitor General chambers, the lawyers there have less of brains? Are you saying the government of Uganda, the lawyers within the government have less of brains? No. We are saying there is a point government is making that we must protect the sovereignty. There could be differing opinions on the provisions, the way they have been drafted, and they could be improved.
So the government is threatened?
No, Ugandans are threatened by foreigners wanting to promote activities and behaviors which are against the interests of Ugandans. And that's why, unless we are saying we go back to colonialism, we leave the affairs of Ugandans to foreigners to be in charge. That's what we are saying. And by the way, we are not saying we shall not receive money from outside. We are only saying government will now put on spectacles to look at the money which comes from outside. That's what we are saying. And we are saying if it is civil society receiving money, be transparent and accountable. If it is the political parties and the political actors receiving money from outside, be transparent and accountable. Yeah, why do you demand accountability from us who are in the government? And you as civil society...
But there are already existing laws.
Just hold on.
Financial
Just
intelligence.
Hold on. Why do you demand accountability and transparency from us who are in the government? And you civil society, you political actors who get support from outside, you don't want to be transparent. Why do you want to operate in the dark?
Good to have you and share with us. What is your take on the bill in its current stage and the way it is being processed?
First of all, each time I hear government officials talk about this bill, I get quite worried because it gives me the sense that the lie, that the assertion that has been made that this bill was cleared by cabinet and it was cleared by the caucus was actually a lie. Because every time I hear ministers talk about this bill, it is clear that they don't understand the contents of this bill and even the spirit behind it. The people that cleared it in the NRM caucus in Entebbe, the members of parliament, when we spoke to them, they actually, we took them through the bill clause by clause, from clause 1 to clause 30, and they asked us, so what would you save in this bill? And when we took them through the bill, they actually said there's nothing to save. Now, the point I'm trying to make is that you look at these people, he's the Minister of Information, who should actually understand this bill. The Solicitor General, apparently, this bill was drafted in part with him. But when you ask them questions...
the authors.
Yeah, they are the authors. But when you ask them about this bill, they take you into colonialism. They are telling us stories about USA and other places. They are not addressing the contents of the bill. As Minister of Information, he should actually be in the know that there's a lot of discussion about this bill online, in the diaspora, everywhere, not just by civil society. And that actually is consistent with the lie that was told to the members of the NRM caucus when they were being convinced to pass this bill, that this is a bill autocracies that I'm talking about, when they passed laws like this, what happened is that the relationship between the government and the citizens became one of more like servant-master relationship, whereby the citizens are the servants and then the governments are the masters. Now, at the passing of those laws, civil society, independent civil society were closed. In Nicaragua, over 1,000 were closed as soon as it was passed. Independent media was decimated. We have had so many, there was an exodus of citizens going into exile, properties of and assets of research entities, universities were confiscated. And even with all those bad things happening in those countries, when you get this bill and compare it to those other countries, you realize that actually Uganda has benchmarked on those countries and made its law even worse. Because of all those laws that I'm talking about, this is the only law that declares its citizen a foreigner because they are staying in another country. Now, of all those countries
for
as
3
well,
months plus.
whether it is 3 months or whatever, but the law doesn't even state how long the period, because it's possible that I can board a plane right now and go to Zimbabwe, and as soon as I reach there, I will actually be declared a foreigner, as per this law. Now, the other thing which is happening is that of all those economies that we are looking at, Uganda is actually the most vulnerable. Now, all those countries faced international isolation. A country like Hungary has been more like a pariah in the EU as we speak. It raised a lot of dust because of passing a law like this, and up to now, it's now like the outlier. It doesn't look like them at all. Those countries have been isolated by international financing institutions, by donors, etc. Uganda is so vulnerable in terms of its economy. As we speak, right now, for our national budget, the projection is that we are going to raise 24 trillion shillings from aid. Over the past years, we've been making such projections and we've only been able to raise between 3 to 5 trillion. Now, right now, if we are projecting that we are going to raise almost 40% of our budget from aid and we are introducing such laws, what does that mean? That we are going to face international isolation and donors are going to run away because you are closing space for civil society, you are closing space for the media, you're closing space for your religious institutions, you are closing space for your cultural institutions, for your medical professionals, etc. Because this law actually, as is at the moment, it has serious implications for the churches, for the mosques. If you look at churches, a lot of them who are really intervening even in terms of education and health, because you know that some of the best hospitals in this country and health centers are actually run by the churches and mosques. The schools are also run by churches and mosques. Now, these are not running them that way because they are raising money locally. They are raising money from outside. But when this law is passed, those churches, those schools, hospitals must register as agents of foreigners.
Well, we'll take a very short break, and when we return, we'll still be asking whether this is yet another draconian bill that seeks to give government more big brother powers. We'll be back.
NBS Frontline.
As Uganda prepares for a defining moment, the nation turns its eyes to the presidential swearing-in ceremony this May 2026. NBS Television brings you unmatched coverage from the Kololo Independence Grounds with in-depth live broadcast that captures every moment as it unfolds. Organizations, development partners, MDAs, and elected leaders take part in this historic occasion. Share your congratulatory messages and connect with millions. Call now 0772 860028.
The National Mosquito Net Distribution Campaign is back. No one should die of malaria in this era. It is your responsibility to chase malaria from your home. The good news is that the government of Uganda has once again started distribution of mosquito nets under the 5th Universal Coverage Campaign, also known as the Under the Net campaign. Under this exercise, 1 mosquito net will be distributed per 2 people in every household. A village health team member, a community health extension worker, also known as a CHU, and the LC1 chairperson will move house to house to register members of the household in preparation for receiving their mosquito nets. Do not lie back. Ensure that you register all your household members to receive a mosquito net. On the distribution date, move to your distribution point and receive your net. Mosquito nets protect you and your family members from infectious mosquito bites that lead to malaria. Ensure that you receive the net, hang the net, and sleep under the net every night.
When you don't use Momo, you are forced to quarrel.
Mama, kabalansi? Nkuwaire 5,000. Mama, nkuwaire 5,000.
Ompaire 5,000.
Abantu abakulu mwatandise obuyayi mwena.
Obuyayi obulira.
Iwe.
Ngobi yanko
bantu sente dange ninzade kolera ngobi nakolera sente dange.
Save yourself from quarreling. Use the Momo app or dial *165*3# to pay and enjoy 0 charges below 5K. That's the power of Momo.
When the news moves, you move with it on AfroMobile. Get real-time updates and the moment they unfold. Choose from over 80 live TV and radio channels and follow current affairs your way on the platforms you rely on the road, in the office, in the middle of your work, or out and about. AfroMobile keeps the story going with you. Download AfroMobile today and stay connected to every update as it happens.
There are many ways you can practice self-love or care. There's options. For me, it's I could read a book that's self-motivating and get me back on my square if I am not on my square, if I'm down. Meet up with friends that I know. Once I meet up with this person, I'm going to be so happy because they have this great energy. And surround yourself with really good energy. And then you will take a walk or go to a spa, get a massage. You know, sometimes your muscle, like, let me tell you, there's nothing that is as draining as having sore muscles. So if you could get that squared away, then I would advise anything that's really going to make you pause, shut out everything else, focus on yourself so you can, you know, reset, and it will actually help you go around whatever you're doing in a better way.
NBS Frontline.
Welcome back as we continue analyzing the Protection of Sovereignty Bill 2026, asking whether government is walking a very delicate path on constitutionalism. Well, Honorable Semuju, how much processing has this bill faced so far? I've seen the minister for I've seen the Attorney General before Parliament today, before committee. Does this give you an impression that, yes, the antis and the pros have had enough time to process this bill?
The NRM MPs were summoned that day. They presented to them just figures, total figures of a revised budget. Those who attended the meeting told me they were surprised because usually the chief whip will be the one asking those who support and those who don't. But this time it was Mr. Museveni himself. Those in favor say to the contrary, no. Then they finished the budget. No debate, no asking any question. Then he called David Muhoozi, General, to present a statement on this law. They hadn't seen it because they have just been issued with the copies. After that, he asked them whether they will support, and they said they will support. Then they left. That was the caucus consultation. There was no consultation. It was David Muhoozi telling them what is in the law, and then they asked, will you support? Yes, I will support. But they left grumbling. I have met NRM MPs themselves, because you see, this law is not only targeting political opposition and civil society. I've seen the religious leaders, the entire religious council, but it's also targeting the citizens. And these MPs represent these citizens. You have, the last time I visited the Ministry of Gender, on record, Ministry of Gender told me they have registered 170,000 Ugandans who work in Saudi Arabia. On record, those who are registered. Others are not, because they are not taken by registered companies. All those ones are in danger now because they are classified as foreigners, and they will need to register. Maybe even their parents will need to go to Ministry of Internal Affairs and register, because they are receiving money from foreigners. And the parents will become agents of foreigners.
I thought there is a threshold to how much.
See, so Chris can tell me, I have read.
There is no
this copy I read even today in preparation for this program. I didn't
For
see the...
what would warrant you to register as...
No. You must register.
You must register as... Let me read for you the provision here about an agent of a foreigner who is required to register. An agent of a foreigner means a person who acts as an agent, representative, employee, or servant, or any person who acts in any other capacity at the order, request, or under the direction or control of a foreigner or of a person, any of whose activities are directly or indirectly supervised, directed, controlled, financed, or subsidized by a foreigner. That's how wide it is.
So they, I don't know why they didn't even limit it. They should have said opposition and civil society, because that's the target. And then you don't have to bring everybody under the law, because your intention is not to immediately target them. So the people you are targeting, by targeting them, others have also become victims of your own civil society and political parties. So the consultations, I've told you the NRM was just a ceremony, no consultation.
And the clerk to parliament,
the committees of parliament,
put a notice in the newspapers inviting people, stakeholders, to make their contributions.
Right now we are dealing with the appropriation, tax laws, the budget itself. We are busy, but also ending the term of office. The mind and the concentration is not there. You need to visit Parliament. Today, I was in Munyonyo when you are processing the budget, and the last of the 8 tax bills, the income tax was being processed by not more than 30 MPs. This is the wrong time, even at Parliament, to bring a law as controversial as this one and ask MPs to process it. Those of us who have lost the election, the mind is not there. The ones who have won are also, their mind is somewhere else. And you bring a law, there are no members in the committee, there are no members in Parliament, and then quickly, because you see, I saw it in Kenya. You remember when Ruto wanted to chase his vice president. These processes that are statutorily stipulated in the law, they can organize them very quickly, and then they say everybody was consulted. When we are processing tax bills, we receive the views from UMA, from Kasita, from everybody. But not a single line was considered when the NRM MPs were making a report. So inviting views doesn't necessarily mean that they are waiting for those views. It's to answer questions like yours. Did you consult? Yes, everybody came here. It's not that they are listening to them, if you've been living here. By Adolf Mwesige issuing a statement in the media, they are just answering questions like you're asking, that people are asking, did you consult? But not that they are asking for expertise views to improve the bill. The bill, if they will pass it, they will pass it the way M7 wants it.
How much reflection has the alternative, the opposition, made on this particular bill?
We, unlike the civil society, and for us, we are there in Parliament. Most likely this bill will come next week. We will debate it. So we can give views, and the parties have. I know PFF, to which I belong, has already given its views. But in the Parliament itself, you need to ask yourself where those views are going to be received and respected. Because chances are high, and I can assure you that these NRM, sometimes even the reports of committees are written by people from outside, like Oma here, because they have the knowledge. So they write for them, they come to read. So the consultation going on now is not a consultation to improve the bill or to listen to the citizens.
We have technical staff in Parliament. We have a legal and legislative department with lawyers. Are you saying Parliament runs to get reports from outside? Of course.
Chris, I'm talking about something, you know.
No, I have been in Parliament longer than you. So
it does not matter.
It matters.
Maybe the time you were...
You will not deceive the public.
Maybe before you became an MP, that's what you... I mean, a minister, that's what I am talking about now. That reports sometimes are written by outsiders and MPs just carry them to the floor. That I know for a fact.
Like which committee?
I don't want to go beyond that.
Mr. Uma.
So the consultations going on, the question you asked, are not consultations to change anything or to influence this legislation. Are consultations to back up argument that the citizens have. You've seen Chris here, they have said, we are discussing, people are giving views, and that's where it will stop.
Okay. Is there any effort to stop this bill in its tracks?
We will in Parliament. First of all, ordinarily,
Could the different views that have been voiced
happened in Islamabad. Now the second round.
Of 2 billion or 4 billion for one failing to register as a representative of foreign interests. Is that
or 20 years in prison.
Or 20 years in prison. That is outrageous. Does that require me to appear before the committee to tell them that this is absolute hogwash? It is something stupid. Which should.
But the clerk was courteous enough to invite you.
This is what I've
to make your contribution.
And I've always been suspicious on all those bills, starting with the bill the Honorable Semji was talking about, the age limit, the Tojikwataku. Every time you see Adolf Mwesige's notice in the papers, there's something fish about that bill.
He is the clerk.
Not every, let me tell you, I know. And I respect him very much. This is what I'm telling you. It's not Adolf. By that time, it was Tandekwire.
Yeah.
But this what?
The gentleman must have been another person.
Chibiriki. Okay, fine. Tandekwire had left. Well, the point is, the clerk, anyway, let me say the clerk. Because not every bill which is presented before Parliament invites a notice in the press that it is presented, it's published there. It's not the case. The other thing which I wanted also to talk about, one aspect which is also outrageous, and this Charles Ouma will also agree with me. In chapter 6, no, schedule 6 of the Constitution, you don't have a copy of the Constitution there. The framers, the promulgators of the Constitution, wanted to dichotomize the functions which are a pre-reserve of the central government and those which are for local government. They listed them. Now, when these people were coming up with this bill, they got these functions ordinarily vested in the government, the central government, to say these ones are excluded from external financing. Totally excluded. Even if you are registered as an agent of a foreigner or a foreigner, you are bad. And when you look at the list here, including the judiciary, and the judiciary, the justice sector is financed by external financiers. Now they are saying no external financier is allowed to finance the judiciary. They are excluding it in this bill. That's how absurd it is. So does that require me to go there and tell them that, please, this thing is defective? It's absolute hogwash. You throw it in the dustbin. Does that require me to be there?
Yeah,
so
but
that is one. The other thing is...
I want you to look at it this way. These are expert brains.
But I've told you these aspects. I've given you these aspects. And do
you want to suggest that they are not the ones behind the drafting?
This is what I'm telling you. You see, when something is brought in bad faith, there is that evil hand which is pushing it. The evil hand may not be Charles here. May not be anyone in that Attorney General's chambers. Those may be just purveyors, couriers. They are just directed, please, come up with something to this effect, press it before Parliament, and when you go to Parliament, don't waste time. Because the committee is always given 45 days in the rules. But what is going to happen, I can assure you, as day follows night, this bill, Parliament is going to be prorogued or dissolved. I think by 12, government has to be dissolved. You, ourselves, we have to dissolve by 12. So before Parliament is dissolved, they are going to pass this bill. I'm assuring you.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, the point the Lord Mayor has raised may need to be put in context. The provision with regard to the sixth schedule in the Constitution is not in absolute terms. It provides for an exception with the approval of government. So that doesn't mean that no entity or even a foreign agent should participate in matters that have been listed in the sixth schedule. You can participate if you are registered, but also with the approval of government.
Let me add one little thing here about the absurdities we are talking about. Earlier on, I read to you this provision which defines
a foreign agent.
No, not a foreign agent. An agent of a foreigner. And you heard how wide it is, including sweepers in these companies owned by foreigners. Just look at this situation where you get a petrol station. For example, most of these petrol stations are foreign owned. They are alien. They are not domestically owned here. They just register here as foreign companies under the Companies Act. Just imagine the people who work there, these pump attendants, or a sweeper in a bank, which is owned by South Africans or owned by Asians, or these Chinese companies that are operating here, and they have locals who are employed there. Simply because you are supervised, you are directed, you are controlled by that foreign company, you are construed as an agent of a foreigner, and of necessity you must register with the Kahindo Tafiri. Isn't that an absurdity?
The trouble with the government, when they are closing DGF, which was a democracy
governing facility,
because I don't even think Museveni had been properly briefed that these people are funding parliament, judiciary, etc. Because they also funding seminars of political parties and I think civil society. They woke up one day, but the biggest amount of the money was going to judiciary and parliament. So because they were targeting civil society and political parties, we all lost the money. Now you are processing a budget and there are unfunded priorities at parliament, in the judiciary, because they wanted to stop political parties from benefiting. And you need to understand the mentality of Mr. Museveni. When the Netherlands Institute for Democracy came here to help us, they were giving political parties computers, training youth, and so on and so forth, but also calling for a dialogue. Say now the dialogue I will sponsor. In a meeting with at Munyonyo, he says now, these ones we don't want. I must be the one funding. When he meets the religious leaders, he must be the one funding. Yet he's also looking for money from outside. This budget that we'll be handling tomorrow, 11 trillion is listed as money, because if you look at the government borrowing plan, the borrowing plan has a formula of 65-35. 65 of the money that will fund the budget is going to come from, it's a formula for borrowing. 65 of the money that will be borrowed, which is 40% of the budget, is going to be borrowed from domestic. They call them domestic. But even what they call domestic are all South African banks, Stanbic and Standard. And then 35 is going to be borrowed from outside. So they are looking for money from outside. They are saying nobody. And I'm asking them in my report whether these are not agents of foreign interest that have written in their plan to fund a budget that 40% of the budget will borrow. And part of the 11 trillion will borrow from outside sources. They even list them, all the lending institutions. So as soon as the budget is passed, they will be on the next flight going to look for money from outside. We should be waiting for these fellows at Entebbe to arrest them. This is actually the real agents of foreign interest.
Well, Honorable Chris, when you're having a discussion in cabinet over this bill, yes, did you ever anticipate or envisage the outrage it would cause? And now that you've tested the waters, don't you think you need to reflect again?
We actually first discussed in the cabinet and raised a number of issues. We sent it back to the minister, and the minister responded to the issues raised and then improved the bill. So we had a very robust
So this is refined?
Yes, from cabinet. You see, this, just hold on. Just hold on. You see, this attitude that because you have an opinion over the bill or provisions, therefore you are right, you think it's unconstitutional, therefore for us who drafted it fake or we don't know what to do. That arrogance also should stop.
Yeah, but look at the sections of society that have come out.
No problem.
Religious leaders.
I said it is heresy.
Bankers.
Absolutely.
Lawyers. Diaspora.
Just guiding them, all of them should stop the arrogance.
No. I'm saying the arrogance of the lawyers here, simply because you are a lawyer and you have formed an opinion, you think for us, we don't know anything. All of us have been to school. This law is written in simple English. Because they are saying, you minister, you don't understand what you are presenting. I do understand. You may have an opinion, respect mine also. If you think it's unconstitutional, go to the court which interprets the laws. Just hold on.
When you talk Peter's Pan, whatever, I respect you.
He wasn't arrogant.
So, he wasn't arrogant. That was not arrogance.
We have had bills which have been contentious. I can name one. The constitutional amendment on age limit. Some Ugandans were arguing as if Parliament passes it, then the heavens will fall down and the sun will change and will rise from the west and set in the east. We passed it, there is no mercy.
But what was the process of passing it?
We had a contentious discussion.
That's a big question.
Yeah, people are still nursing their backs. The military raided the parliament.
But it passed.
And are you proud of that process?
No,
really?
but it passed.
No, it passed. Should it pass at gunpoint?
Just hold on. We had a contentious discussion on rationalization, especially taking the functions of UCDA to Ministry of Agriculture. People were saying, oh,
the military again came in.
People were saying, our coffee is being taken. Has anybody's coffee plant been uprooted by government? You answer. So even this will come to pass. What is happening is healthy and doesn't worry us or bother us as government. We have brought a proposal. It is there for Ugandans now to react to it.
Yeah, but
and we are receiving the reactions in good faith. So don't think that because the bankers have comments, the religious leaders have comments, therefore it is negative.
So who is for it? If bankers have commented, lawyers have commented, civil society has commented.
Yes.
But these are representatives of Ugandans.
Yes.
So in whose interest is this bill now being?
Ugandans.
Which Ugandans?
No, hold on. Is it the
Which
first
Ugandans?
time? Is it the first time Ugandans are commenting on the bill in the parliament? Actually, the right process should be like that. That when the bill goes to the committee,
recently,
as many
just information. A couple of weeks ago, when Rumu was pushing that bill, and many people rejected it, the speaker pronounced herself and said, if all the people who have appeared before the committee have rejected it, what business have we got to do with it? You withdraw it.
That's even not the work of the speaker. She was wrong. The speaker, that's not her work. The work should be the committee. The committee which should listen to Ugandans or any other person interested. They should make a report and bring it to the House.
Government seems to be hell-bent on passing this bill at any cost.
That is your view.
To the extent of calling people with divergent opinion arrogant.
No. Yes, you are being arrogant when you say the minister doesn't know what he's presenting. I know. I have been to school the way you have been to school. You can have a viewpoint which is different from mine, but don't take yours to be superior to what I am saying. So let's give a chance to the Committee of Parliament to process the bill. They will listen to as many interested persons as possible. And then they will bring a report back to Parliament. If in the opinion of the committee, for instance, that the bill should be thrown out, they will say so, but the final decision will be taken by the Parliament of Uganda. It is not correct to say that the committee members do not value the comments from the public. That's not true. I have been in the Parliament for 20 years. It is not true that the committee has inability or is deficient. It can't write a report. It depends on people from outside. I think that's bastardizing parliamentary work. We have technocrats in Parliament. We have a Department of Research, a Department of Legal and Legislative Services. We have economists. We have all specializations in Parliament. And those technical people support members of Parliament in the process.
You attended caucus where Honorable David Muhoozi addressed the NRM MPs. Did you have time to debate this?
Well, the
or
members,
you just consumed
the members
it also?
who claim they know what happened in the caucus are saying there was no consultation. Why didn't we invite one of the NRM members of Parliament to come here and denounce the consultation which took place? You claim you held the meeting of the caucus members where? Just this is to hoodwink the public. So, the process of Ugandans giving their views, even non-Ugandans can go to the committee, giving their views is healthy, and that's part of the parliamentary process. If, for instance, the bill is amended to the tune of over 30% of the bill being changed, the practice in the parliament is that we shall send it back to the minister.
So this time it's going to be 70%.
No,
This is what we were told.
No. You see, first of all, the members of the committee are not duty-bound that whatever you present must be included. They will evaluate the comments from the public and then look at them and then improve the bill. And then the bill, they make a report.
Honorable, as we take a very short break, Job will come after the break.
Honorable,
what does it mean when Ugandans are very suspicious of any kind of bill that government presents?
Well, then it becomes our duty as the authors of the bill to explain to Ugandans. Maybe the weakness on the side of government.
Or you're just shady that Ugandans are.
The weakness which I must concede to on the side of government that maybe we have not explained enough. The civil society and the opposition have taken the front page in terms of bastardizing this bill and therefore misleading many of the Ugandans. Why? Because they receive funding from outside. Actually, the person who would be worried is somebody maybe who has been getting evil money from outside. Otherwise, if I have been getting money, say to build the health centers, to build the schools, why would I be worried? If I am getting money for the right intentions. Because the bill is saying a foreigner who is doing something against the interests of Ugandans.
No.
That's what, yes.
No.
No, don't say no. That's, you read it. And what we are saying, if you think there is any formulation which is wrong or incorrect, improve it. It is not correct for road mayor to just say.
For you to register, it doesn't need to be evil money. No.
And there is nothing wrong with registering.
That's where you go wrong. If
you say a foreigner should register,
if you have a relative,
what do you lose?
If you have a relative in Dubai and they are sending money here to help their relatives here, say with the domestic affairs, school fees or what, must I register with the Kaindo Tafire to get school fees from my relative who is in Dubai?
But who told you the Minister of Internal Affairs will forever be General Kaindo Tafire?
He's the one now.
For someone could come on the national TV and say, because the Internal Affairs Ministry has generals, Otafire, Musanifu, David, is really just
political parties
being
are required under the Political Parties and Organizations Act to file returns.
Yes.
If you have received the money, you must declare to Electoral Commission how much and where it came from. Why are you now asking
And there is a
me,
ceiling.
Yes, why are you now asking me to go to Internal Affairs? Because already the law requires me to file returns, disclose how much money to the Electoral Commission.
That is specific for political parties.
Yes.
Now, under Electoral Commission.
Now you are telling me to do both registration.
This one is targeting foreigners or agents of foreigners.
Well, Job, I'll give you time to make your rebuttal, but let's take a very short break. And when we return, we'll actually be asking Job, why is civil society up in arms? Could it be that you are actually receiving dirty money and government now wants to impose? We'll be back.
NBS Frontline. In a digital world, not everything is what it seems. False stories today spread faster than truth, leaving us all wondering what's real. Disinformation misleads, misinformation misguides and spreads confusion and fear. Dismiss, a campaign to help you think critically, question wisely, and verify thoroughly. Join us. Let's build a more informed Uganda, one truth at a time. Dismiss, inquire, verify, confirm. Together, let's fight fake news.
Hey travelers, are you a family gearing up for that big vacation, a hustler working abroad coming home, or your squad chasing sunsets and passport stamps? It's time you lock in. Say goodbye to long airport queues, shocking roaming bills, and the stress of hunting for local SIM cards, because now you can travel like a local. Stay connected in over 180 countries. Just scan, tap, and boom! Instant data the moment you reach your destination. Get your Rogue Travel eSIM today at travel.roguetelcom.co.ug. Contact us on 020-500-123.
Across Uganda, the parish development model is paving the way for prosperity, helping families transform their lives through strategic farming practices, like the 4-acre model.
In our Chibaro of 1996, we said first acre, put coffee. Second acre, fruits. The third acre, you put pasture for dairy cows. The fourth acre for food, cassava. The good thing is that now cassava is also becoming a very good cash product, but at least for food. Then, mind you, the backyard. You put poultry for eggs, you put piggery.
I'm in a 1 acre plot of land. In this 1 acre, Your Excellency, I practice this banana plantation. I also practice coffee. I also have dairy, Your Excellency. Every month, Your Excellency, I get 500,000 from these bunches.
The 7 activities we recommended, they have a big global demand.
We have 10,000 Nile tilapia fish and 10,000 African catfish. And when we sell our 10,000 tilapia, we get in one harvest 20 million shillings.
Fruits, especially capsule, which is cold, can do very high value crops like apples. And then finally, those who are near the wetlands, like the ones in Bukit who are wasting the wetlands, they should do fish farming, not in the center of the swamp, but at the edge of the swamp.
From coffee farms to fish ponds, the 4-acre model is empowering Ugandans to transform their lives. The parish development model is your pathway to wealth creation. This message is brought to you by the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance.
Was there something like missing marks? Missing marks? Yes. Missing marks?
Yes.
It was not because you failed, actually. The Lord tells me. And that's the devil, eh? Even this lecturer didn't know what he was doing. Today, as I lay hands upon you,
yes, Father,
your miracle is being fulfilled. Eh? Now, everyone who has been going through this,
amen,
it's to you, eh?
Watch The Power of Prophecy with Prophet Elvis Mbonye this Saturday, 6:30 p.m. on NBS TV, Uganda.
NBS Frontline.
Welcome back. It's still the Frontline as we discuss the Sovereignty Bill Protection of Sovereignty Bill 2026 and what it really means to the country. Well, the bill stipulates quite a number of penalties towards offenders, including being imprisoned for 20 plus years, among others. Of course, there is also a fine of 2 billion. That comes to about 100,000 currency points. In another, that's all for promoting foreign interests against Uganda. There is still a lot of ambiguity on what foreign interests means. But well, as the bill undergoes the process, why is civil society so scared?
Unregistered. If you are a representative of a foreign land, you are not registered. Say you were a sweeper in a commercial bank which is foreign.
I think you have...
yes, this is what I'm telling you. The offense you have committed carries a sentence of 50,000 currency points, that is 1 billion, or imprisonment for 10 years.
For a sweeper?
For a sweeper.
You go and read the bill.
Well, Job, so why is civil society so scared? You are a bit mentioned here. I see civil society being mentioned here and there in this bill.
Actually, civil society should worry because civil society represents citizens. So it is scared on behalf of citizens. It's not even scared because behind civil society are individuals. There are individuals that are employed in organizations. there are individuals that are surviving off those employees of those organizations, but there are also beneficiaries from civil society services. Because the world over, civil society or even NGOs, if I am to say, exist to fill up gaps that are left by inefficiencies of government. And I think there are so many inefficiencies of this government that civil society has been actually trying to fill up. If you look at health service provision, 65% of health services in this country are provided by private actors, including NGOs, civil society, churches, etc. If you move across the country, you realize that civil society are chipping in terms of providing water, in terms of providing education services. When you go to the prisons, they are telling you of how congested they are. But civil society organizations have been going to these prisons and training prisoners to self-represent, such that even when they cannot afford lawyers, they can go to court, represent themselves, and they are able to get out of the courts, because you know prisons are filled up. The people that are returning from Luzira, Kitalia, etc., the Lord Mayor is here, he has been going there several times. He can tell you that people are now sleeping on each other, not even on double deckers or triple deckers, but they tell you that there are 4 people sleeping like sardines in a prison cell. So there are so many civil society organizations that have been trying to intervene in that case. So the question as to why civil society is scared, first of all, this is not the first time that civil society has been more or less a punching bag for this government. You know, we have the NGO law. As we speak, actually, it is very surprising that we have this law, because there's another process which is ongoing, the regulatory impact assessment of the NGO regulatory environment, which is going to come up with a new law for NGOs. It is going to come up with a new NGO policy, regulations, etc. There are so many other laws that are also regulating civil society. So there's over-regulation of civil society. But for me, I think...
For a while, your relationship, the relationship between government and civil society has been frosty. Do you imagine it's getting more complex? And how complex can it get?
So let me say this, that actually there's a way in which the government has lied to Ugandans to believe that this law is about civil society. Because if you read the memorandum of this bill, it talks about civil society. And actually, it has 3 objectives. But 2 objectives are targeting civil society. They are making the claim that there's an increase in NGO funding, which is not regulated, interference in activities of government. Yet, actually, in reality, there's no evidence that they are giving in terms of civil society intervening. But also, the actual reality is that financing to NGOs has actually, over the last 10 years, reduced by over 80%. That most of the NGOs actually right now are struggling because of lack of funding. You know the story of the departure of DGF, which was also occasioned by government. Last year, but one, USAID closed. Majority of the NGOs that were benefiting from USAID funding actually have also shut down. So there's no funding for civil society anymore. So if this law is saying that the basis for being created is because there's an increment in funding for civil society, it's actually a lie. But the point I want to make...
but you are explicitly mentioned here, foreign aid to civil society that comes along with conditions and parallel programs which conflict with government programs.
Simon.
This has given external donors significant influence over Uganda's political, social, and economic landscape, which has resulted into the erosion of the values we hold sacred as a nation. It has also undermined our right to self-determination.
So let me say 2 things on that. The first thing, I think I've made the point that actually there's no evidence in terms of what they are saying. They are telling lies because financing for civil society has reduced. But the second thing I want to say is that also government is being disingenuous, because when funding comes to this country, when donors bring money to this country, over 95% of the funding that comes in is actually going to government. Okay? Civil society is receiving just about 1% of that funding. The rest is going to other sectors, maybe religious institutions, etc. So civil society is just receiving a snippet of that funding. So the question is, why is it that when this funding comes, which is coming from EU, from US, from the DENS, from wherever, when the funding is going to government, which is 95% plus, the government is actually, these are not interests of foreigners. But when it goes to civil society or any other actor, then foreigners are trying to influence the affairs of the country. But I think the most fundamental point to make is that this bill, as crafted, much as the memorandum is talking about civil society, when you read it from clause 1 to clause 30, there is no single clause that is specific to civil society. These clauses are touching every Ugandan. The bill has cast a very wide net. If I were to describe it in terms of a fishing net, the net goes into an ocean, it catches a shark, it catches a Nile perch, it catches tilapia, it catches mukene, it catches snails, it catches, there are these things which are put in dog food and chicken food. I don't know what they are called. It catches all those things, it even catches sand. That is the kind of net they have cast. And so it is not clear actually as to what exactly these guys are trying to regulate. Now, if you read this bill, I would like you to go to clause 11.
You here. No, let me just help you make your case just briefly, Simon. Because he's saying there is no clause specifically regulating the activities of civil society. But in the preamble, it's plain language. They are criminalizing. They are declaring activities. They are criminalizing activities of civil society.
You read it.
This is the language here.
Lord Mayor, I hear you, and I totally agree with you. The point I am making is that they are not criminalizing the activities of civil society alone. They are criminalizing the activity of everybody. Actually, this law is an attack on Ugandans. It is not an attack on civil society. It is not an attack on political parties. It is an attack on religious institutions. It is an attack of churches. It is an attack on the Muslim faith. It is an attack on the cultural institutions. It is an attack on the Buganda. It is an attack on the Kadamas that are working in the Middle East and wherever. It is an attack on every single Ugandan. Because first of all,
you have left out lawyers.
So it is an attack on lawyers
who represent clients,
international clients. It is an attack on accountants. Actually, this law is an attack on government because the biggest loser by this law is government. Why do I say so?
Yeah, but the underlining statement is safeguarding Uganda's interests.
So actually, by this law, government is legislating itself, first of all, into international isolation. But also, it is legislating itself into loss of revenue. Why do I say that? I'm saying that because when donors look at such an environment, okay, already we are struggling with even so many other laws. We've been blacklisted. I think the World Bank had just come back. They had stopped giving us loans and grants. I think they've just come back. I don't know that they have actually given us any grant as yet.
That's why.
Because of your bad laws. Because of because of your
information.
Because of your inconsiderate legislation.
Let me help you. He's asking that question. This financial institution, financial intelligence authority. The financial intelligence authority.
No, because of the homosexuality law.
Actually,
why do you want us to feel shy? Because
government was on the grey list of the FATF, not because of the anti-homosexuality law. It was on the grey list because it was failing to regulate the actual money laundering, and it was using the anti-money laundering law to target to persecute civil society. And that is why, to persecute civil society, and
using that financial intelligence
authority. And that is why one of the conditions to remove government of Uganda from that grey list. One of the conditions to remove government of Uganda from that grey list was the removing of civil society from being accountable persons. And they went to parliament and removed civil society. And they were removed off the grey list. Now they are coming up with this evil law, as the Mulodi has described it, which actually is going to take us back onto that list, which is very unfortunate.
You wouldn't impute evil on people like Ouma. Ouma, with all his experience as Deputy Solicitor General, has told you how much input, how much benchmarking that they made.
Simon, Ouma is a handmaid. He's rather midwife. You can't blame a midwife who never helped the person to conceive. He's not responsible. He's not the one who helped the government to conceive and come up with this bill.
Simon, let me first clarify that.
He's a midwife.
The reason I would call this law evil is because this is the only law I have ever heard of that strips an individual of their citizenship simply because they are staying in another country. We are going to have... This is what the law is saying. I don't know that, Honorable Baremos, I don't know that you've read this law.
I have.
This law is going to make people stateless.
He's the Minister of
Because we have so many, we have so many people that are living in other countries that actually don't have citizenship there. Even when our Ugandan laws actually provide for no citizenship. There are so many people that are living there that are not citizens.
Yes.
When this law strips you of your citizenship,
the law
you
is
become
saying,
stateless.
Just briefly, the law is saying, for purposes of this law, somebody who is resident outside Uganda will be treated like a foreigner, but you don't cease being a citizen of Uganda.
Simon, can you read the provision
the
for,
moment
for
you
Uganda,
are resident, you are domiciled outside Uganda, you are a foreigner.
Yes.
No, for purposes of this law.
No.
Of administration of
you
this
need
law,
to listen.
but you don't cease being a citizen. You don't cease being a citizen of Uganda.
A foreigner.
Who is a foreigner?
A foreigner. A non-Ugandan citizen. A. B. A Ugandan citizen residing outside Uganda.
For purposes of this law.
Where is it?
For purposes of this law. So are you saying you will lose citizenship by that?
Yes, that's what the law is saying.
That's what the law even empowers the minister by a statutory instrument to declare someone a foreigner.
At any one time.
For purposes of administration of this law.
Yes.
So isn't it giving too much latitude?
Until you come back here, you remain a foreigner.
No.
That's what it says.
A foreigner
for
purposes of this law. Not because,
so what other thing can you do as a citizen?
Even if it is for purposes of
the law.
There must not be any excuse for you to strip me of my citizenship. Even
Who has stripped you of citizenship? Nobody. Are you saying you become a Canadian? You mean when you are in Canada, because of that provision, you will become a Canadian?
But you are saying, I mean, you can stop me.
Kenya you are misinterpreting. I know you know the truth, but you are just for the sake of argument.
Honorable Semuju, ordinarily this would come off as another Toji Kwata or controversial coffee bill. But there seems to be a bit of lukewarmness from the opposition.
I don't know which opposition you're talking about.
In Parliament, for instance.
I have told you this is a transition period. But also the law found us doing budget taxation bills. They are also controversial. Because if you look at the taxes that have been imposed, because we are divided, we've divided ourselves. As you are dealing with the income tax, they are telling you sovereignty bill is also on the way. So we're just running around like mad people. I don't know whether this was the intention.
But can you put up a front against it? Or you already resigned to the fact that it will pass at any cost?
We will certainly do our bid because we are at the front line. So this law is going to be processed in the Parliament. And it is us who are there. I hope they can push it to the next Parliament. But the speed at which they are processing it, I've even been told that they want to hold meetings tomorrow. Yet tomorrow we'll be dealing with the budget. Maybe even they will be sitting on weekends. So the speed at which they are moving in, I don't know whether by mid next week it will not be.
But Simon, why are you imposing that too much burden on the MPs when actually the individuals...
Because the MPs...
Wait a minute.
Legislation.
The victims of this law are everywhere. I'm glad actually they are targeting bankers. They have always been in deep slumber. They are targeting lawyers, my colleagues. They are targeting all these elites. It's high time they came out. They came out and asserted themselves.
Actually, if you may allow it,
and they are doing so through the committee.
The likely victims, first victims of this law are the people who are going to pass it, members of parliament, who are exiting. Why do I say that? I say that because a number of them are professionals. They are accountants, they are lawyers, they are representing international clients. These people are going to have to register as foreign agents. Number two, those that are still, they have to register. Number two, those that are continuing even in the 12th parliament. When these civil society organizations, let's use civil society and even churches and mosques, when they are muzzled and they exit, the burden of delivering these services that have been delivered by these churches, mosques, and civil society is now going to be on the members of parliament. Their voters, their constituents, are now going to be demanding the services that were delivered by these civil society organizations and other actors from the members of parliament.
Well, you'll allow me borrow a few minutes as we cross to AfroMobile. Mr. Uma,
is allowed to speak on this particular bill. And I'll say this. Let's understand the purpose of this bill. Is it your interest to defeat government development? Is it your interest?
But the government is saying that when you supplement, you need my permission. If you don't seek permission, you are in trouble.
Yes, correct. And also, is it in your interest to defeat government policy? These are the tests that we should be using. That's why we need to debunk the idea that, all right, we have our sisters and brothers abroad who remit funds for a mother, an elderly mother, for her medical bills. What has that got to do with defeating government purposes?
No, you have to go to the ministry
to register.
Exactly. If at all the funds that you're going to use is intended to influence government policy.
No. There's no qualification to that effect. No.
It is actually there. Look at section 2. It lays out the kinds of funds and the intent of the use of those funds.
No.
So it's not so much about foreign funds coming into the country. It's about the usage of those funds. That's the purpose of this bill, because the idea is we need to avert the promotion of foreign interests.
The spirit is questionable. Parts of cross-sections of the public who would be welcoming and embracing this law in the interest of the sovereignty of Uganda are questioning the spirit. How cleaner can you come?
So are you saying we should allow foreigners to come and do anything they want here, even when it's against the interest of Ugandans? Is that your argument?
What are you querying?
But what are the interests of Ugandans? What are they?
I think that's
you need to define them for us.
What are the interests?
Which are those interests such that we don't interfere with them?
The interests are defined in Article 1 of the Constitution.
What are they?
That the power belongs to us Ugandans. And we should enjoy that sovereignty, meaning if we are to make policies, if we are to make legislations, if we are to develop programs, if we are to determine our destiny, it should be done by us Ugandans. So this bill is saying there are foreigners out there who may want to determine the destiny of Uganda. And we're saying no. We are an independent country, we are a sovereign country, we took to self-rule. We must be able to determine our future ourselves. If we are, for instance, we want to have elections to elect who should lead us, it should be us Ugandans, say, be our president, be our MP, be our chairman, be our road mayor, not some Muzungu in America or in Europe to determine who should be our mayor.
The same Muzungu you ran to are the ones who are now becoming a threat. What an irony.
We run, if you call it running too, we can borrow, we can get grants, we can do what, we are not stopping that. We are only saying money which comes from outside, the state needs to know what is this money coming to do. If it is for the right cause, like you are sending money to build a house for your grandmother, no problem.
Aren't you being over-intrusive?
No.
Whoever receives money, government should be asking what the purpose is.
I would like you to correct that misrepresentation.
So the issue is about this money is coming to do what?
I want to correct that.
No, I am telling you are the author of the bill if you have not
I have it here. Yes. Let me read it.
You may read and fail to understand. And I'm now telling you, as the author of the bill,
is here.
What the intention is.
Application of this law.
Yes.
This act applies to any person who acts as an agent of a foreigner. That is sub-clause 1.
Yes.
2, for the avoidance of doubt, this act applies to an agent of a foreigner who engages in any of the following activities through any means, including the use of digital platforms. A, engages in political activities in Uganda for or in the interest of a foreigner. B, this is what is relevant when it comes to money. Solicits, collects, disburses, or dispenses contributions, loans, money, or other things of value for or in the interest of a foreigner.
Yes.
And remember, if a foreigner, a Ugandan living outside Uganda is a foreigner.
Is a foreigner. So if that Ugandan who is domiciled in Dubai sends money to build a house here.
It's okay.
And I receive it here. I'm acting on behalf and for the interest of this foreigner.
So,
and of necessity, I must register.
What is wrong with registering?
That's where now the problem comes in.
What is wrong with registering?
Okay, gentlemen, as we get out of
Why
here,
do they ask you
as we get out
to
of
register
here,
before you practice
I just want to bank that line.
No.
Councilwoman.
Yes, please.
Is
the ambiguity in this law deliberate?
First of all, we don't consider there to be ambiguity. Maybe what may be obtaining currently is the absence of 100% clarity. I think the Honorable Minister of Information has clearly highlighted that there's a need to educate the masses and explain to them where are we coming from, where are we, where do we intend to go. If at all there is any ambiguity, which I have stated I don't think exists, there is a forum where this can be addressed. Like I stated again, this is a process. Let's allow for this process.
Who is an agent of a foreigner?
It's defined. Would you like me to read it?
Yes. Okay. Who is an agent of a foreigner?
As is getting the law, let me say this, Simon. On the question of ambiguity, Ouma here knows. Now I'm not talking about Peter Pan syndrome. There is this notion, principle, which should always be at the back of their mind as they are drafting the law. Nura Owen Kulimen Sinirege. Nura Owen Kulimen Sinirege. If you are making a penal law, it must be very, very clear and certain. Clarity is important, is critical. You don't leave any room for ambiguity or misconstruction. So it's an obligation on the draftsman not to throw it to Parliament and say, if there is any vagueness or ambiguity,
explain.
That will be addressed by Parliament. Or the courts of law, like this man said, Honorable Minister, you go to court.
Gentlemen, what a pleasure hosting you tonight. Job, thank you very much for joining us. Lord Arias, thank you. Honorable Bariu Munsi, Councilwoman, and Honorable Semuju. That's all we had for you tonight. Let the discussion continue on our socials. Have a lovely night and cheers.
Thank you.